Today I will read some of the good points which I learned from the book The Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin's biography was not published until after his death, but it has provided one of literature's most influential and enduring example of self-improvement. My parents, they buried together at Boston, where I some years since placed a marble over their grave. With this, Josiah Franklin and Abiah, his wife, lie here interred. They lived loving together in wedlock 55 years, without any state or any gainful employment. By constant labor and industry, with God's blessings, they maintained a large family comfortably and brought up 13 children. From this instance, reader, be encouraged to diligence in thy calling, and distrust not providence. He was a pious and prudent man. My father's little library consisted chiefly of books, mostly of which I read, and have since often regretted that at a time when I had such a thirst for knowledge, more proper books had not fallen in my way. After some time, an ingenious tradesman, Mr. Matthew Adams, who had a pretty collection of books and who frequently our printed house took notice of me, invited me to his library and very kindly lent me such books as I chose to read. I now took a fancy to poetry and made some little pieces. Often I sat up in my room reading the greatest part of the night when the books was borrowed in the evening and to be returned early in the morning. A question was once, somehow or other, started between Collins and me of the propriety of educating the female sex in learning and their abilities for study. He was of opinion that it was improper and that they were naturally unequal to it. I took the contrary side, perhaps a little for a dispute's sake. I sat down to put my arguments in writing, which I copied fair and sent to him. He answered and I replied. 3 or 4 letters of a side had passed when my father happened to find my papers and read them. Without entering into the discussion, he took occasion to talk to me about the manner of my writing. Observed that, though I had the advantage of my antagonist in correct spelling and pointing, I fell far short in elegance of expression, in method, of which he convinced me by several instances. I saw the justice of his remarks, and thence grew more attentive to the manner in writing, and determined to endeavour at improvement. When about 16 years of age, I happened to meet with a book written by one Traun, recommended a vegetable diet. I determined to go into it. I read about this time Locke on Human Understanding and the Art of Thinking by Messrs. Du Port Royal. So I sold some of my books to raise little money, was taken on board privately, and as we had a fair wind, in 3 days I found myself in New York, near 300 miles from home, a boy of but 17, without the least recommendation to or knowledge of any person in the place, and with little money in my pocket. In the evening I found myself very feverish and went to bed. But having read somewhere that cold water drank plentifully was good for a fever, I followed the prescription, sweat plentifully most of the night. My fever left me, and in the morning, crossing the ferry, I proceeded on my journey on foot, having 50 miles to Burlington, where I was told I should find boat that would carry me the rest of the way to Philadelphia. The governor treated me with great civility, showed me his library, which was a very large one, and we had a good deal of conversation about books and authors. This was the second governor who had done me the honor to take notice of me, which to a poor boy like me was very pleasing. My friends walk together on Sundays into the wood, where we read to one another and conferred on what we read. Wilcox, my friend, had an immense collection of second-hand books. Circulating libraries were not then in use, but we agreed that on certain reasonable terms, which I have now forgotten, I might take, read, and return any of his books. Good merchant character. So Franklin wrote, I must record one trait of this good man's character. He had formerly been in business at Bristol, but fell in debt to a number of people, compounded, and went to America. There, by a close application to a business as a merchant, he acquired a plentiful fortune in a few years. Returning to England in the ship with me, he invited his old creditors to an entertainment, at which he thanked them for the easy composition that had favored him, and when they expected nothing, but he treated every man at the first, remove found under his plate, and order on a banker for the full amount of the unpaid remainder with interest. Regarding integrity, Franklin wrote, sincerity and integrity in dealings between man and man were of the utmost importance in the felicity of life, and I formed written resolutions which still remain in my journal book to practice them ever while I lived. Revelation had indeed no weight with me as such, but I entertained an opinion that through certain actions might not be bad because they were forbidden by it, or good because it commanded them, yet probably those actions might be forbidden because they were bad for us. Benjamin Franklin formed the first library in US. So here is the paragraph about his own biography. And now I set on foot my first project of public nature, that for a subscription library. I drew up the proposal, got them put into form by our great men, and by the help of my friends, procured 50 subscribers of 40 shillings each to begin with, and 10 shillings a year for 50 years. The term our company was to continue. We afterward obtained a charter, the company being increased to 100. This was the mother of all the North American subscription libraries, now so numerous. The libraries were augmented by donations. Reading became fashionable, and our people have no public amusements to divert their attention from study, became better acquainted with books, and in a few years were observed by strangers to be better instructed and more intelligent than people of the same rank generally are in the other countries. This library afforded me the reason of improvement by constant study, for which I set apart an hour or two each day, and thus repaired in some degree the loss of the learned education my father once intended for me. Reading was the only amusement I allowed myself. I spent no time in taverns, games, or frolics of any kind, and my industry in my business continued. Franklin wrote 13 virtues. Temperance, eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. Silence, speak not what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Order, let all things have their place. Let each part of your business have its time. Resolution, resolve to perform what you ought. Perform without fail what you resolve. Frugality, make no expense but to do good to others or yourself. Waste nothing. Industry, lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary action. Sincerity, use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly. And if you speak accordingly, justice, wrong none by doing injuries or omitting the benefit that are your duty. Moderation, avoid extremes. Cleanliness, tolerate no uncleanliness in body. Tranquility, be not disturbed at trifles. Chastity, rarely use venery but for health or offspring. Humility, imitate Jesus and Socrates. My intention being to acquire the habit of all these virtues. I should be master of that, then to proceed to another, and so on, till I should have gone into the 13 virtues. I made a little book in which I allotted a page for each of the virtues. I ruled each page with red ink so as to have 7 columns, one for each day of the week, marking each column with a letter for that day. I crossed this column with 13 red lines and marking the beginning of each line with the first letter of one of the virtues on which line and its proper return. I might mark by a little black spot every fault I found upon examination to have been committed respecting that virtue upon that day. Regarding God, Franklin wrote that there is one God who made all the things, that he ought to be worshipped by adoration, prayer, and thanksgiving, but that the most acceptable service of God is doing good to man, and that God will certainly reward virtue and punish vice, either here or hereafter.